Won 74 races and over £882,000 in prize money, win and place. So, before we look at them, there we are. Desert Orchid odds on. Here's John Tyrrell.
And Desert Orchid, the 11 to 8 on favourite. Barnbrook again is 4 to 1 from 7 to 2. And Pegwell Bay steady on 9 to 2. Yahoo is 13 to 2 from 6 to 1. Norton's Coin 66 to 1 from 100 to 1. And Bob Tisdall, the outsider, at 100 to 1. All quoted for the King George.
After all, his 58th horse race. A long time since he fell at the last hurdle here in his very first race and lay there for 15 minutes, winded, and his owners really hardly recovered from the horror of that experience. But since then, he's rewarded them many, many times, 28 times to be exact. And, well, we mustn't only concentrate on him, but the best of luck to him, John.
Yes, I mean, it's got to the stage now where you'd almost feel that if he didn't get himself a little bit warm under, I was just going to say under the collar, but under the girths and just on his neck, then you think there was something the matter with him. And anybody who's had doubts about wondering whether the edge has gone off him certainly wouldn't think it to look at him there. He looks as keen to get on with it as ever.
But in David Ellsworth's yard, Desert Orchid's box looks across the yard to another box which houses Barnbrook again. They're old friends, or at any rate old acquaintances. Of course, we don't know whether they like each other. They travelled to the races here together today, and as I say, they live within about 20 yards of one another, maybe less, across the yard at Whitesbury. Barnbrook again trying 3 miles for the first time. He is the champion 2-miler. He wasn't beaten over fences last year in 4 races over fences, and when he was beaten here in his first run of the season, something went wrong with his heart. It got an intermittent beat and didn't get the blood to his heart. Let's have a look at that race now. It was the C&L Murphy handicap chase, and this was a sad sight because Barnbrook again was already beaten before he fell. He was already feeling the strain of the whatever went wrong with his heart that day. He's, as you see, he just didn't get anywhere near high enough, didn't really take off, and gave Brendan Powell absolutely, well, no chance, and ended up on the ground himself. But at Sandown, and Desert Orchid is giving Pegwell Bay £18 in this race. It's the Gainsborough chase last year, and don't forget, £18 between them, and just look at Desi exerting his superiority from the last.
And the thing about this is, as Simon said, he's actually won quite cosily in the end. Simon only just caught hold of him hands and heels and just shaking him up. I think he always felt that he had the beating of Pegwell Bay there, and he's only just pushed him out there. Won quite nicely there. I think Pegwell Bay has improved a fair bit since then, and certainly it was a good performance when he beat Panto Prince here on his only run in that race when Barnbrook fell. He was given an awful lot of weight away at Ascot. Panto Prince only just got touched off there.
Barnbrook again and Yahoo, and 50 bar those. Over to you, Graham.
19 fences to jump then, and as they come down towards the first, it's Desert Orchid on the inside of Bob Tisdall as they come to take the first fence. Desert Orchid and Bob Tisdall and Barnbrook again, they're all over the first. Yahoo, Pegwell Bay, Norton's Coin as they come down towards the ditch, and it's Desert Orchid on the inside of Bob Tisdall as they take the ditch. Just a little bit of a short one there. Yahoo are just a fraction slow, but it's Desert Orchid leading from Bob Tisdall in the red jacket in second place, and then Pegwell Bay and Barnbrook again in Yahoo, and Norton's Coin the back marker as they swing right-handed and make their way down the far straight here at Kempton Park, where they have 4 fences to jump, and no one knows that better than Desert Orchid as he levels up towards the third. A plain fence, then an open ditch, and then 2 more plain on this stretch of the track at least, and Desert Orchid leading. And Desert Orchid by length to Bob Tisdall in second, and the gap of 2 lengths to Pegwell Bay and Barnbrook again. They come in towards the third, and a mighty leap by Desert Orchid gains lengths in the air. Bob Tisdall's in second, Pegwell Bay third, and Barnbrook again trying this trip for the first time in 4. Then comes Yahoo and Norton's Coin, and this one's a ditch, and Desert Orchid comes to it, takes it safely from Pegwell Bay, making ground on the inside. Wide of these in the red jacket is Bob Tisdall. And Norton's Coin, a little bit of a mistake at the rear of the field. Barnbrook again taking quite a keen hold in fourth, and they take the next, and there's no change there. It's Desert Orchid and Pegwell Bay on the inside as they head towards the sixth, and it's Desert Orchid clear by 3 over Bob Tisdall. Desert Orchid from Bob Tisdall. Barnbrook again a bit untidy, and another untidy jump by Norton's Coin at the rear of the field. And so they swing right-handed out of the back straight and turn for home for the first time down towards the 7th, and on this stretch of the track they've got 3 to jump and they're all playing. And it's Desert Orchid clear by 3 over Bob Tisdall, and then Pegwell Bay and Barnbrook again 3rd and 4th, followed by Yahoo and Norton's Coin, and they've got 2 miles left to race, and it's Desert Orchid out in front where he loves to be from Bob Tisdall, with on the inside Pegwell Bay, and this is the 7th, and the leaders are all over the 7th. Pegwell Bay on the inside of Bob Tisdall and Barnbrook again, and Yahoo and Norton's Coin, and they come in to take the 8th, and as Desert Orchid comes to it, meets it well from Pegwell Bay, who's coming through in the 2nd place, with Bob Tisdall in 3rd and Barnbrook again wide of that one. Then comes Yahoo and Norton's Coin, and down towards the 9th, and it's Desert Orchid in the lead, comes to it, takes it well, but Pegwell Bay just hit the top of it, and as Desert Orchid races past the enclosures, is getting a round of applause, and they've still got a circuit to go, and they head towards the 10th water jump, and it's Desert Orchid in the lead from Bob Tisdall and Barnbrook again, and Pegwell Bay and Norton's Coin and Yahoo, and they head down towards the water jump, and it's Desert Orchid leading from Bob Tisdall and Pegwell Bay and Barnbrook again, and this is the water, this is the 10th, and it's Desi in front. Desert Orchid leading, comes to it, takes it safely from Bob Tisdall and Barnbrook again, and Pegwell Bay travelling well, and they've completed a circuit of the course, and they go to what was their first, and John Oaksey, John Frankham, it's still Desert Orchid out in front.
He looks very happy so far, nothing particularly extravagant. He hasn't stood off outside any wings so far, but his ears are still pricked. Barnbrook again going well behind, and although Pegwell, oh Lord, Desi was made a slight mess of that.
Yeah, he hasn't really been jumping as boldly as I've seen him in the past. He hasn't really been taking Richard into the fences. Normally he attacks his fences. He certainly hasn't been doing that today. And, well, as we're waiting there, let's have a word from the man who knows him better than anyone, Simon Sherwood.
Yeah, John, as you say, he hasn't been attacking his fences as much as I'd like to see him, but on the other hand, I think he's quite happy in himself. I dare say Richard's trying to give him a little bit of a blow, and we'll be thinking about really stepping it up, sort of one of these 2 down his back straight.
And they've got 7 to jump. Bob Tisdall's on the outside of Desert Orchid, but that one has the lead. Desert Orchid comes into it again. Not as fluent he has been in the past. Bob Tisdall's on the outside. Barnbrook again is 3rd. Pegwell Bay 4. Now the next one they take is the last ditch, and it's Desert Orchid. Hasn't really set the pace of life, but he jumped that one well. Bob Tisdall in 2nd. Yahoo a bit untidy at the rear of the field. Barnbrook again comes through into 3rd. Pegwell Bay is 4, but Desert Orchid in the lead, and they've got 5 more to jump, and it's Desert Orchid who comes to it by a length. Desert Orchid, a good jump there from Barnbrook again, who's coming up on the outside of Bob Tisdall. Pegwell Bay was a bit untidy, and they've got 4 more to jump in the King George VI chase, and his Desert Orchid comes to it, and he's now starting to jump that one well, and in the grey, the silver shadow is coming clear now of Bob Tisdall in 2nd, and Barnbrook again is 3rd, and then Yahoo is making stealthy progress on the outside of Norton's Coin, and Pegwell Bay is now the back marker, and they've got 3 to jump, and it's Desert Orchid in the lead, but Bob Tisdall in the red jacket is pressing. Barnbrook again is trying to close, but his query is the trip here. Yahoo in the yellow colours on the right, and they're in line for home, and they've got 3 to jump. And it's Desert Orchid who comes down towards this, the 3rd last, comes to it, a good jump from Bob Tisdall and Barnbrook again, and Norton's Coin and Yahoo looking one pace now as they come down towards the 2nd last, and Desert Orchid comes to it, and he meets it well. 3 clear of Barnbrook again and Bob Tisdall, and he's got 1 to jump as Desert Orchid in this King George VI and ranked steeplechase. 1 more to jump for Desert Orchid, and the crowd is starting to come alight, but Barnbrook again is challenging in 2nd. They're at the last, and Desert Orchid takes it from Barnbrook again in 2nd place, and as he races up towards the line, it's Racing's own Rolls Royce. Desert Orchid, the silver shadow coming well clear of Barnbrook again, and Desert Orchid wins it for a 3rd time. A big performance. from Barnbrook again, second, and Yahoo is third. And then came Bob Tisdall in 4 and Pegwell Bay in 5, and just trotting past the post in 6th and last place was Norton's Coin. It wasn't as an electrifying performance as we've seen in the past, but take nothing away from it. This horse, Desert Orchid, an amazing performance, and what a service he's doing racing in the colours of Mr. Richard Burridge, trained at Whitsbury by David Ellsworth and ridden by Richard Dunwoody, the 6-4 on favourite. Second was number 1, Barnbrook again, and all credit to David Ellsworth, all credit to Mr. Mel Davis, the owner of Barnbrook again, for trying to take Desert Orchid on. He's finished second, ridden by Brendan Powell. And the third horse home was number 6, Yahoo, switched off by jockey Tom Morgan early on, tried to make ground into the home straight, but on this track, on this flat track, this galloping 3 miles, Desert Orchid had all the answers, and the smile on Richard Dunwoody's face says it all.
No.
Well, he let them have their hour of glory. He let them come up to him 4 fences from home, but there was still another gear. And turning for home, he found it. The last 3 leaps were truly memorable, and the crowd got what they'd come for, got what will make their Christmas, if they like that sort of thing, and an awful lot of people do. No wonder Richard Dunwoody is looking a happy man. Let's hear from his predecessor, the man who started Desert Orchid's brilliant treble in the King George.
Simon, it seemed that you, along with the whole nation, were starting holding your breath down the back straight when he wasn't really lifting off this horse, but then Richard pressed the button and he didn't get the response all right.
Yeah, you could just tell by his ears that he didn't seem to be too happy down the back straight, but came to straight, and then Richard just pressed the turbo, and that was the end of the race really, and he really sort of got down to the meaty bit at the tail end of the race.
The reception he got, I mean, there's almost too much noise to put him off at the last.
Yeah, having ridden it myself, I never really noticed there's a sort of crowd following, but when you're standing here from this angle, it's just amazing watching the way people get so involved with him. He deserves it as well. I just did notice that Richard is yet to get a kiss from Janice Coyle, so hopefully there's some better things from Richard yet.
And the whole place will go up as he walks in here in a moment. Here comes the applause.
She always kisses you, son. Yeah.
And winning the King George, John, that'll take a lot of the pressure off of Richard now. And I should think that, well, he really feels that he's got the hang of him now. He jumped so much better when he caught hold of him halfway down the back.
Yes, the third last he gave was really tremendous leap. He hadn't done it in the early stages, but I suppose that's just as well, really.
At the second last, he jumped the second last, while next Milton would have been proud of the leap he put in there, and I should think it took Richard a little bit by surprise. He must have stood off a whole half a stride too soon and had his front feet up by his ears somewhere. His ears were pricked. I mean, a lovely shot. I expect somebody would have been down there with a camera.
There's Janice. Not crying today, no tears in her eyes, I don't think, not even tears of delight.
Richard.
And the Burridge family, that's Richard Burridge in the brown coat. And don't forget David Ellsworth. He's the talk about strain on Richard Dunwoody. The strain on David Ellsworth is 24 hours a day, or would be if he allowed it to affect him. There's the breeder, Mr. Burridge Senior, and there's the applause. Wonderful place for getting a look at the winner, Kempton, just as good as the modern Cheltenham winners' enclosure. And that's what it was all in aid of. Well, as a matter of fact, it's not what it was all in aid of, but it is the trophy. What he was running for was our pleasure, everybody's pleasure, and the glory. But that's the symbol of it. And the distances were 8 lengths and 7 lengths.
Here he is now, going through. And Desi there nodding his approval, almost thanking the crowd for the applause. And so loud was the cheering here that you just could not hear the course commentary in front of the stands coming to the last. It was absolutely unbelievable. Everyone, whether they'd backed Desi or not, were cheering him home. He's returned the 6-4 on favourite, with Barnbrook again a 13-2 chance, and David Ellsworth has the 1-2. With third Yahoo at 11-2, and 1 or 2 stats for you, Desi, the 19th favourite in 39 runnings to win it, the 8th to go in at odds-on, and he's the 6th horse to win the Gold Cup and the King George in the same year. He joins Borough Hill Lad, Captain Christie, Arkle, Millhouse and Cottage Rake. What a select group that is that Desi now joins. And of course he gets back his 50% record. He's now won 29 of his 58 starts. We're seeing the rear of Desert Orchid. That's all the opposition ever see of him these days at Kempton.
And as Jenny Pittman said, the important thing is that he's come back in one piece. Of course, you can never tell till tomorrow morning, but to all appearances, at any rate, he's done himself absolutely no damage.
Hardly looks as if he's had a race there walking away. He looks very nonchalant.
Let's have a look at the lovely, enjoyable sight up the straight. Bob Tisdall, in fact, has run a wonderful race. He's kept Desert Orchid company for a long, long time. But now the question was, could Barnbrook again perhaps quicken to close that gap? You'll see why he couldn't. That was the third last. There his forefeet went out with that sort of particular individual action when he stands right off. And the second last is just as good.
That really was a wonderful leap there, and from then on Richard's only just got his head down, just pushing him out. It's the first time he started doing anything, I think, throughout the race, was when he turned for home. And going to the last, Richard got time to put his goggles down, the horse has got time to prick his ears, have a look at the crowd, see who's watching him, and jumps the last perfectly there. Barnbrook again got a bit close to it, but well, the race was all over and won by the time they jumped the third last, really.
So home he comes, and why shouldn't he do it next year? Well, touch wood, if only he stays in one piece, I believe he will. And let's hope that he thrives between now and then. And here's Richard, the winning jockey.
Richard Dunwoody, what did that feel like?
It's very hard to describe at the moment. I think, I'd rather say nothing.
But early on, he didn't seem to jump quite as well as sometimes he has, and he made one quite nasty mistake.
I did down the side. I'm wrong at it, and I've half left it up to him, the ditch down the side. And basically, he's going round the crowd and everything else, and really not concentrating between the pair of us, To
what extent did you then grab hold of him and really ask him? Is that a good idea?
Giving him a pat down the shoulder, and he's actually gone and got a bit close to the next one down the back. And then really I'm wanting to quicken up from sort of the last ditch, and he jumped up the straight.
But coming to the turn, everybody, even the outside, are all closing up behind you, and the whole sort of nation's holding
I look around, and I've seen Bob Tisdall there, and I thought, Barnbrook again, I hope we've gone quick enough, and I can hear them getting to me third last, just giving him a crack, and he's really galloped up the straight.
And really come up. And did you want him to come up as far as that second last? Is a huge amount.
Gone a little bit long at the second last, I think. But no, his scope and everything else. And once he really got into gear, you can do that. He's done the same at the third last. He's come up from a long way for me. But as I said, all the all the times ever since I first sat on him down at Whitesbury. The power and the scope he's got really does strike you, you know.
And I last thought that noise of the crowd just from here, it was a huge noise as you went to the last. Did you hit you?
No, it just hit me a little bit the first time going past the post. There was so much shouting and cheering, and people are standing up on all the boardings. He himself's having a look at them, you know, wondering what they're doing up there. But from turning in, you don't hear anything.
Head down and victory.
That's it.
You're weighed in now. It's all official. Take the prizes. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Thanks.
And now the trophy presentations for this the King George VI rank chase.
Ladies and gentlemen, the directors of United Racecourses wish to take this opportunity of thanking the rank organisation for their generous and continued sponsorship of this our feature race, the King George VI rank steeplechase, the trophies of which will now be presented by Lady Mary Meany, wife of the chairman of rank. Here, ladies and gentlemen, to receive the trophy, I'd like you to welcome Mr. Simon Polymore.
Simon Ballard, one of the ownership team here, which of course is headed by Richard Burridge, but is a very enthusiastically played. If you saw the documentary on Christmas Eve, splendid documentary that it was, made by Richard, see quite what a part it plays in the lives of all those that have been touched by Desert Orchid. And what's so splendid about this jumping game and about him is he touches everybody who's here. And they've come here by their tens of thousands, and they've not been disappointed, because you almost could say now it's over. He's a bit of a ham actor, Desert Orchid. It makes it more difficult each time. There's always another twist, and this time it was the mistake. There was a bad mistake, really, going away from the stands. And there, the other jockeys, Colin Brown and Sir Simon Sherwood, go through. Colin, who of course started off Desert Orchid's career before he retired. And the applause going up for the trainer who's made it all possible, David Ellsworth. The most remarkable double. He won the Queen Mary this year for 2-year-old fillies at Royal Ascot on the hard, and here he is winning the King George over 3 miles with Desert Orchid on. It's officially good, but it's in the rain-soaked winter. And David is certainly the most versatile trainer in the land, and he's arguably, and certainly in many people's opinion, the most gifted. A man of real touch, of understanding the galloping racehorse. He's brought Desert Orchid here at his peak, and he's got a jockey at his peak. And 3 times Desert Orchid's come here and won it. And of course there was the famous year when they tried to break the sound barrier, and the French horse Nupsala came through outside. But now Richard Dunwoody's moment.
Here is, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Dunwoody.
And there's Colin Brown with Graham Bradley, and with us now is the man who, as we said, made it possible, who's had the pretty worrying time, I'd have thought, through the years, and particularly through the last few days with Desert Orchid, David Ellsworth. How tricky are the last few days when all the sort of screams and shouts start?
Well, I think most of it's self-inflicted, you know, it's in the mind. He obviously is a public figure now, and it's probably, I'm getting old, I think, like him, you know, it's getting to me a bit.
Well, you were saying in the documentary of how you've been very realistic, that horses don't get much better after the age of 10, and he will deteriorate at some stage. Was there a moment during that race when he wasn't jumping quite as extravagantly as before, and he did make a mistake that you thought perhaps the old downhill slope was beckoning?
Yes, I don't want to sound blousy about it. I mean, I'm very relieved that he's won, but he can jump better than that, and he can be sharper. I wasn't happy at Sandown, and we've been rather more severe with his preparation since Sandown than we usually are. the prevailing firm ground in the beginning of the season slowed the whole programme up. And it just hasn't happened yet, which you mustn't panic, at least one shouldn't panic, and it's very difficult. And I think probably in 3 weeks or a month's time he'll be a better horse than he is now. I just don't feel he's come to his best yet.
I mean, he doesn't attack as he used to, really. I mean, is he perhaps getting a bit too almost sophisticated? He's such a public horse that he's show jumping more than attacking.
I quite agree. I wouldn't say it's the reason and the logic for him doing it is what I would question. You know, I don't think the horse is. It's a very complex and negative sort of explanation I might be giving, but you know, horses aren't.
And this is him here, David, when he does make a mistake. Comes to it, ears pricked and everything, but I'm just lucky he's been on the ground once or twice in the past that he actually, he could have fallen at that quite easily, couldn't he?
He could have done. If he'd been a novice, he would have done. He's an old pro now, but as I was saying before we switched, you know, my reasoning may sound abstract and rather difficult for the layman to understand, but horses aren't machines, and we haven't really had him as good as he was last year. Now, some of the press and media and public probably think perhaps he's over the hill and he's on the decline, and that wouldn't be beyond the bounds of possibility, but more likely it's just that he hasn't come to himself yet. And this is the thing with horses. They're difficult creatures to understand, and they do take time and circumstance and all sorts of little things we don't understand, but I'm sure he's not finished yet, and I'd be disappointed if we don't see a bit more of the flamboyant Desert Orchid later on.
If that is so, David, is your thoughts there for the Gold Cup stronger than they were before? That he could be better yet for Cheltenham?
Well, I think I've said this to some of the press boys. It's the wrong time to answer a question like that, because we're all hyped up, and I'm feeling now as relief, really. And I'm not. I said let's get this. This was his primary target in the first half of the season, and then we'll see what cards were dealt, if you like, and what the situation is between now and the Gold Cup, and play it by ear. But it's quite possible he could go for the Gold Cup, but I wouldn't rule out the Perliman Clash. You know, that could be a bit of fun.
Well, it's been great to watch, and thank you, Dave, for sharing those thoughts with us. And a last thought for Barnbrook again, who
yes, I'm glad you asked me that, Bruff, because obviously I didn't run him here without thinking he had a chance, and he looked all right without the winner. Dessies just stretched him and took the sting out of his tail. He's probably better at 2. He obviously gets 2.5. He obviously gets 3, because he had some decent 3-mile chasers behind him today. But at this time, this place today, it was just beyond him. But I'm very proud of him. He's a great horse, and you know, he's going to win some good races.
David, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.